Great, thank you, Vanessa. Good morning, everyone. And it's a real honor to speak to you today about my experiences as a woman in engineer and my career journey as a whole. I'm a telecommunications and technology engineer, and I work for a global technology company called NTT as a business specialist and a change manager. I will tell you a little bit more about what that actually means later on as I go along. NTT delivers business solutions using technology. And at the end of this presentation, I will share a short video with you about what NTT actually does. As I said, my company delivers business solutions using technology. My role as a business specialist is to analyze the efficiency of our business and our operational processes, and I make recommendations to improve our business services. This means, on layman's terms, I look at a task or activity an individual must do, and I think about ways in which they can do things better. In business terms, as you grow up, you hear people talking about reducing costs and increasing efficiency. That's the sort of stuff I do. But what this actually means in real life to you as a student at school who know nothing about business. To give you an understanding of this, imagine a company based in London, in central London. As we know, there's high rents in central London and there are also high salaries. My business leaders or a business leader might decide that they would like to move out of central London, and in fact they're going to save money by probably moving the role that the people in London do to India or a different country. My job as a business specialist will be to work with those business leaders to assess the business needs in India. So what exactly will we need to do to make that business work in India? I will develop business processes that tells those new employees what their job is, what they need to do, what they need to do from a day-to-day basis. But ultimately, it's about saving money, saving costs, making more money for the business. So that's part of what I do as a business specialist. The other part of my job is a change manager. And I've only been being a change manager role for about a year now. NTT is made up of a number of individual businesses. And this might sound like a little bit of a weird concept to you. But to understand what I mean by different businesses, if you think back at a company, a clothing company like Abercrombie Fitch or Hollister, you think of them as two different brands. You think of them as two different companies, but actually they're owned by one company. This is the same for my company, NTT. We have hundreds of businesses all across the globe. So from South America to New Zealand, to Russia, to China, lots and lots of different companies. At the moment, my role as a change manager is to create and to implement one finance system across the entire company. So if you're in Russia and you're logging on to a finance system, you're going to be logging on to the same system as they log on to in South Africa. At the moment, we have about 350 different finance systems. So my job is to just create one digital, all singing, all dancing system. So that's what I do. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it has helped to understand what I do. So how did I get there? Today, when I look at myself and I look at my job and what I do, I am actually doing something that I guess I wouldn't imagine my career would have taken me. When I started studying, I trained as an electrical and electronics engineer. That's my educational journey. I also studied telecommunications and technology. And I was fortunate enough to be sponsored to do my studies. So I think you could call it a scholarship today. My first ever job after I studied electronics and electrical engineering was a quality manager in a large electronics company. And I started the job as a teenager at the time still. And this company was made up of adults, at least 10 years my senior, some of which had applied for the same job that I got recruited to do. It was an awful job. It was horrible. I cried every evening when I went home because the people, they were like mean to me because I was a teenager, new to the company, and I was in effect making decisions that impacted their life. I had to lift the quality and standard of what they do. And that meant that some employees were warned. We had employees dismissed because they weren't doing what they meant to do. But I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. It was too big for me at the time, just having left university and just finished studying. However, the skills that I acquired from being in a role where I was senior to most everybody in the company. I was new day one, but I was senior to them. I was a teenager, but I had to perform a job. And this is, to me, is one of the critical learnings that I've had that has sort of formed where I am today. I had to grow up. I think it was 18 and I had to grow up. I had to grow up very, very fast. I had to do a good job. And actually, within, I would say, 6 months, the profits started growing, the quality of our products started increasing, so we weren't having lots of rejection. We were shipping more parts, and some of the parts that we were shipping, so some of the things we were doing in my company then was making circuit board that you would have in your television today. So that's what it means when you say working for an electronic company who build parts. It was scary. It was easy for me. I earned the role because I was a trained electronics and electrical engineer. All the people and people who were in the company for a longer time who applied for that role didn't get the role because they were educated, but they didn't have the qualifications I had. So I earned that job through my qualifications. And I think I was competent enough and brave enough and ballsy enough to take on the role, but it was scary. And I think I left within a year. But it was an amazing experience, although horrible. So what did I do next? I moved on to telecommunications because I'm like, I don't want to do this job anymore. And I started working as a technician. Now, back in the day when I started working as a technician, that was like a real buzzword. You were like, oh, I'm a technician. It was just such an important role. I must admit, it was a junior role. So I had a mentor, which is an engineer, a senior person to me. And this is where the next part and the next growth and the next part of my journey began. As an engineer, as a technician, and if you can think about that world, that very masculine world, I was probably 19 then, or 18 and a half, 19. So again, young girl walking into an office with men, big blurry men, as a young technician, appointed mentors. And of course, there's no real respect at the time. Things have changed, but there were no really respect for me as a teenager. Why are you doing this job? Nobody wants to train you because you're a woman in engineering. Yeah, so it was challenge, different challenge to my first job, and that's really important. However, I'm a tough girl, as you can realize from being bullied by these other people in this other role. I'm tough. I had to get my big man pants on, and I daily, so part of my first one as a technician was fixing equipment. So our company will provide telecommunications and technology equipment. For example, give mobile phones to everybody in that business, and our job was to make sure the services work. So the printers work, the computers work, the routers work. So if there was a problem, I would go with my mentor, and usually because I'm the little girl, he'll give my toolkit to hold, and I will trot around with him, following him around to fix equipment. At times, passing pliers, passing this to him, passing that to him. However, I know my responsibility was to learn. He might not wanted to have trained me, but I needed to learn because I wanted to be where he was. And I learned quickly. And within months, I was given my own little job and my own little customers where I'd brought and fixed things for myself. But that's just the start of my journey. Telecommunication and technology is a vast subject. It's the experience you can have varies from one length to the next. You think about a mobile phone today, and the journey that mobile phone have gone through, from, in fact, that telephone has gone through, from being a telephone handset on a desk where you can't move around, picking it up, has to be plugged into a wall, to you walking around now in the street, at the park with a mobile phone. So if you think about that journey, there is a lot to think about. And I knew I was working at one end of the journey. So fixing a radio network, or fixing a router, or fixing a telephone itself. And I needed to learn more. So swiftly, I was recognized as, being great at what I was doing, and I was promoted to a different role. And that was a network engineer. Now, what does a network engineer mean? That just sounds complicated, even more complicated. If you think about you using WhatsApp today, and you log onto you go onto your phone, went to work, and it doesn't work. You think, WhatsApp's not working. You call it, WhatsApp's not working, WhatsApp not working. Well, my job as a network engineer, if you think about WhatsApp, which it wasn't back in the day, would have been to get WhatsApp working for you. So I would investigate why it wasn't working. Is it a piece of equipment in one of our network center? Is it some cabling somewhere? And again, I had a mentor, a nicer mentor who wanted to help me to learn. He was great. And very quickly, ace that job, start doing it myself without my mentor, and move on. However, I want you to start thinking about those experiences that I've had. So my first experience is being a bit too young and naive and trying to run a ship that was just too big for me. And then in my second role, where actually I'm a little dot, I'm a lady, it's very chauvinistic, very tough life. You've got to prove your worth. You've got to prove that you can do the job, and you've got to build up respect, and it does not come overnight. It comes with time. So while I was a little dot and I was not respected as a lady, I knew in order for me to be respected, I had to spend a lot of time understanding what I needed to do, really learning from people who are not keen on teaching me. And this is something we do, and you as individuals, whether you're male or female, will realize as you go through life, is that your journey becomes what you make of it. I had to develop skills, and as you can start realizing, when you're in engineering, you change roles, you develop skills. When you get good at something, people say, she can do that, I'll get her to do this. And engineering is a learning journey. So you're always learning. If you think about technology and go back to the mobile phone concept, it's a journey, and it's always learning that new thing on the market. It's valuable. It's been valuable in my life, those two journeys and those two experiences. Because what they did is they set me up for success. I continued to learn, and I knew learning would impress the people around me and give me the respect that I needed, but also open new opportunities. I saw very quickly how getting rid of myself and being focused on the job at hand meant that I started to get success, and also started to get the respect of my colleagues. I mean, from starting a job, within a year, being part of the gang and part of the boys. I mean, I'm not a boy, and you couldn't say, well, you're a boy, but being part of the gang and feeling integrated was me being determined to succeed. This company, this second company I worked for, where I started my role as a technician, and then eventually, I'll tell you about my moving into getting the engineering badge. That was like great. But I have learned a number of valuable skills. You just do naturally. My thought process changed. I learned to think differently. I developed a lot of logical and critical analysis skills. Decision making, as you can tell, if you're trying to work out what went wrong with your WhatsApp network, you've got to make those decisions on your foot. And that is based on the training and the skills that you've gained. You become more objective and you become less emotional when it comes to work. These skills that I gained through those experiences has been critical in my professional field. And it means that I can do anything. As you can suspect, my career only grew from there. As I became more competent as an engineer, you actually get more education, because as you become more competent, you get more roles and responsibility. You get more training. You get on-the-job training, but you get a lot more training with external devices and external products and services. As technology train, engineers have to train in those new technologies to deliver. So I moved from a formal, informal role to a role where one day I got the badge as Karyn SANSOM engineer. And that is such a prestige, respected name. What that has done, that then opened a lot more levels for me. It meant that I started thriving in terms of my business acumen and my analytical skills. And then one day, I had a call from my manager, my head of engineering, and I was told I was identified as a future business leader, and they're going to train me in business, to run a business. So training in finance, training in managing people. And that's because of my determination, my skill set. Usually, in fact, I think you find globally, a lot of CEOs and head of companies, you might find I think there's about 40%, it's been said, has got an engineering background. Because the engineering world, it opens this whole new mindset, this whole new way of thinking, a whole new way of doing things. So I was appointed as a future leader, and I went off to college, university at the time, and I got training on all the acumen and all the skills that I needed to become a leader. I didn't expect this. I expected to be working on, engineering stuff, wires and, fixing computers and running new circuitry. That's what I expected when I started my career of engineer. I didn't expect to start managing people. But then quickly after that training, I were offered opportunities to manage teams and to move into different roles. And being me, of course, I think, okay, I've got that knowledge. I can do that. I can do anything from an engineering perspective in telecommunication and technology. I know I learn easily, and I know I put the work in to learn. So I decided I'm going to move away from that, and I'm going to start designing services. And I'm going to start architectural roles. This is where you actually decide what a system looks like. So I've traveled and I've traversed the whole breadth and depth of what is, or what can be termed, a telecommunications journey. I've gone through all the journey. And then starting to move into those managerial roles. So very quickly, I'd start working in a different team, again with the same company, but a different team doing something completely different. And then I would move on into a team leadership role. I'd move into a manager of a functional role. And yes, so my journey, my engineering journey has taken me everywhere. It has given me the opportunities that I knew, or I never knew that I'd ever have. For me, I love learning. I love technology, and I love what technology and engineering has opened up for me. I've I mentioned earlier, today, I'm not even doing anything to do with fixing anything or anything to do with the hardcore technology. However, what I'm doing today is as a result of the knowledge and the skills I've gained and I've earned across my career. Interestingly, about 3 years ago, I stopped working for the company that I started working for like 20 years ago, my second job. I worked for that company forever with different roles, but just forever. 3 years ago, I started working for NTT as a business analyst. And that's the role I talked to you about before, business specialist before. And it was challenging because I didn't know what to expect. It was very new. I had never had gone to an external company and been interviewed before. And when I was awarded the job, I was like, yes, I did it. And, you know, that gave me confidence. But 2 years into the job, I had a call. And it was International Women's Day the next month. And I was recognized as one of the influential women in our business. And I'd only been on the job for 1.5 years or something like that, almost 2 years. And I was asked to speak at International Women's Day across the company in a forum similar to this where I was speaking. A month later, I was then asked to join this recent job I'm doing, which is leading the global change program for a single digital finance system across NTT. And that was huge because, as I said, I was new to business and just starting my career with NTT, hadn't had that background. However, my strong engineering and technical background is what allows me and what meant that I can do this job. I'm business savvy and I can work with anyone and everyone, no matter their seniority, no matter their skills, no matter their language or their background. I have developed the skill set through my experiences to deal with somebody 20 years my senior, 10 levels up, versus somebody who is on the same par with me or below me. Because that's what you do. You develop this mindset as an engineer, which I never had before. You develop another set of skills, another set of skin. So setting me up, in studying engineer, I believe has set me up for the success I have professionally. Studying engineer as a woman has given me financial security. You know, as a woman, you go through the management team who doubt whether you would be there for long term. As you know, women take break for children and for family. And that's one of the negativity in my day that people had against women engineering. And that's one of the challenges I had to then surpass as well. But then all of those experiences made me feel ready to deal with any problem. I know I'm in a prestigious career. The world can't survive without engineers. And telecommunications and technology is one of the most fastest growing sector in engineering. As an engineer with so much experience, I know that I'm employable. It may sound like a cliche, but without engineers, I guess no businesses are possible. I mean, you need engineers to get the lighting, you need engineers to get water in a building, to actually, you know, so engineering is such a great career. I've never regretted it. I think I did when I just started, when I was doing this little role, quality director. I did sort of regret a little bit, but then as I said, I put on my big pants and I got on with it. So for me, my experience as a woman engineer has been varied. It has been different, but my mindset to do well, my desire to be who I believe I want to be and I can be, has meant that I've been successful at what I am and what I do. I'd like to share with you now, I hope what I've shared with you has been useful, but I'd like to share with you now a short video about what NTT does, because you're thinking, NTT, I've never heard of them in my life. It's a Japanese-based company, and it's based in as I said, across the globe. We do lots. It's really exciting, the kind of things that we do. So listen to this video about what NTT do, and then ask me any questions you may have. Let me know if you can hear my video. Great, thank you. So that's all about my company. I hope that makes sense. And I hope what I presented to you in terms of my career journey actually made sense and you understood. But if you have any questions for me, feel free to type them in the chat or come off mute and ask. Vanessa, over to you.